it's the oldest neighborhood. It's the richest neighborhood back at the time it was built. I kind of buy into the idea that this was haunted long before the white people came here, that it wasn't the proper place to build houses. It's like we're not supposed to build houses on their burial grounds and that sort of thing, and that's part of it. And I believe that it's for real. You know, it's not imagination. It's not people trying to create a sensation. We're going to try not to describe the house, but this is a very large house on Fulton Street that had, at the time I was managing it, I took care of it for the owner, and it had about 12 units in it. And there were 2 gay men in one of the apartments on the first floor, and they told me that they were being haunted by an old lady who obviously didn't like the gay lifestyle, and she was giving him a hard time. And what she would do is they'd come home with groceries and things to move into the apartment, and she would lock the door. They'd come in with a load, and then they'd go back out to the car, and when they'd come back with the second load, the door was locked. I had an apartment on the second floor that was vacant, and I needed to get it ready for a new tenant, and so we decided floor needed to be sanded. We decided we would do it. She heard a sound, and she looked up because it sounded like it was right in front of her, and she looked up, and one of the windows in that sunroom, the handle was moving. And she was just amazed. It was in the dead of winter, and there was a big storm going on outside. The snow was blowing. It was incredible. So with the window open, the snow was coming in, was going to mess up her polyurethane on the floor. And then she got mad. She knew about the ghost, and she said, "Well, you witch." And she took off her shoes and socks and walked across the floor in her bare feet with the bucket and the brush in her hands, went over there and shut the window and locked it. Not that that would make any difference, but she did. And then she painted her footsteps back out and called me when she got home and said, "That awful woman." It was somebody who used to live there. And you know, I would go to parties in the hill, and people would say to me, "Have you met," I can't remember her name, but say Madge, "Have you met Madge yet?" And people all over the hill, especially young people, knew about her because of friends who had lived in the house and had had experiences with her. The one up on Prospect Northeast that they call the Phillips house in here, I mean, that is classic. Those 2 men are good friends of mine, and when they bought the house, they started having experiences with Mr. Phillips immediately. And they actually saw him. You know, they saw what he looked like and how he was dressed. And luckily, they enjoyed it. They weren't afraid. And it's fun to read what people have gone through in these houses. I love the story about the lady who was very proper Victorian, and she got upset because the new owner that bought it after she died would walk from the bathroom to her bedroom naked before she got dressed, and that was improper, and she would smack her on the bottom. I thought that was fabulous. She was gonna, and they finally gave up, and they stayed in the house, but they tried to behave in very proper Victorian ways so they wouldn't upset Mrs. Smith, they call her. They won't say who she is because it's a name that's important to Grand Rapids, and they don't want to point to the family. I just love that story.